Hi, everyone. I hope everyone is managing well. It has certainly been another challenging week, and I miss seeing each of you in person. It's been a real treat seeing so many of you, however, on Zoom at our many classes throughout the week. So please reach out to me. Let me know if there's anything I or the shul can do to help get you online so we can see each other really soon. I want to start first by wishing a huge mazel tov to the Greenbaum family and very special mazel tov to Nathan Greenbaum, who this week became a bar mitzvah. I wish we could be together this Shabbat in person to hear you lay, Nathan, and to read Torah so beautifully. You are so smart and capable and talented and mature, and we can't wait to celebrate this moment with you in person, Bezrat Hashem, very, very soon. This week, we begin a new book of the Torah that's just a little bit different from all the other books, in that there are very few narratives as we focus ourselves on the Mishkan and the sacrifices that were given in the temple. And this book in our parsha is actually known as Vayikra. And I remember when I was a kid hearing someone tell me to look up a pasuk in Leviticus chapter 4. And I remember asking, what's a Leviticus? I never even heard that word before. I never realized that Leviticus was simply a name for the word of the book of Vayikra. Because you see, the word Vayikra really should be translated to mean, and he called. In other words, our book really should be named The Calling, after the calling that God does in the first pasuk of our parsha to Moshe. Vayikra Moshe vaydaber Hashem elav me'ol moed, and he, meaning God, calls to Moshe, and God spoke to him from the tent of meeting, saying. And as Rashi explains, this was not some ordinary meaning, some ordinary calling, but the way in which God calls to Moshe was lashon chiba v'rayut. It's lashon ziruz, lashon shemalachei asharet mishtamshim bo. That the word Vayikra, to call out in this way, it's a language of love, of inspiration, of zrizus, of doing things with alacrity, that it's language that's used by ministering angels. In other words, the word Vayikra introduces us to an archetype for all of the divine communications with Moshe. But what's interesting is that Rashi tells us that when God communicates to other prophets, and in particular to non-Jewish prophets, he actually uses a very similar word. In fact, if we just take off the last Hebrew letter of the word Vayikra, what emerges is the word Vayikar, and he appeared, as in Vayikar Elokim El Bilam, that God appeared before Bilam. But this word Vayikar is actually different than Vayikra. Vayikar means that God met, or that he chanced upon him, or he happened upon him. In other words, Moshe hears the call of God, whereas Bilam just happens to meet with God much more casually. For Bilam, unlike Moshe, it is lashon arai, lashon gnai, lashon tuma. It's language of casualness, of temporariness, of disgrace, of uncleanliness. Vayikar versus Vayikra. The only difference between these two words is a tiny little aleph. The aleph is so small that it doesn't even have a sound. Its smallness is magnified by the Torah, writing the letter aleph actually in smaller print than the other letters of that verse. Because sometimes the difference between something happening and something being a divine call is so imperceptible that we don't even notice. But we have to notice. It's the difference between Moshe and Bilam. Moshe hears the call, Vayikra. He understands that he has a specific mission to lead the Jewish people. But on the other hand, Bilam has a prophecy that just happens to him. He didn't have a specific mission. He didn't hear the call, and so his talent and his moment, it's wasted. In our lives, friends, we are constantly surrounded by moments of divine inspiration. There are miracles in every minute of every day. And the question is whether or not we choose to see them. And especially during a challenging time, during a time of difficulty and uncertainty, we need to even more listen carefully to the divine call. We're living in unprecedented times. Our shul is closed. Each day brings about new challenges, new fears. But how do we make sure that this moment in our lives is not a moment of Vayikar, of just happenstance, like Bilam. A moment that just is going to pass by that, please God, we'll tell our children, we'll tell our grandchildren about some years from now. And so I think the answer is simple. We need to heed the divine call. We need to be like Moshe and hear Vayikra. So many are asking, what should I do now with all of my free time? Or what can I do to be making a difference? And the answer is simple. We need to be using our time to dedicate ourselves to more Torah learning, to daven with greater kavana, to give more tzedakah, to reach just a little bit deeper than we normally do, to make phone calls to those that might be alone or might be in need. We can't allow this moment to be a vayikar of chance or happenstance. We need to make it a divine calling and a divine moment. There's a beautiful Medrash Tanchuma that can be found at the end of Parshat Kitisa that notes that Moshe's karnei hod, that the rays of splendor that shone off of Moshe's face, that came from this leftover ink that Moshe used when he was writing the Torah. And the Medrash explains that Moshe just brushed his face with his hand, and the leftover divine ink was on his face, and it shone bright. Now you might wonder, how could Moshe have had any leftover ink? Didn't God give him exactly the right amount of ink? And Sir Moshe Shapiro suggests that the extra ink was actually from the small aleph of our parsha, from the word Vayikra. That the letter, in fact, should have been larger, but Moshe decided to make it small, which left just a little bit of extra ink, making Moshe shine. The difference between Vayikar and Vayikra, it's this small aleph. And we might think that our actions are insignificant, that we're not making a difference. But as the Medrash teaches, that leftover ink, that smallest of differences, even in the size of a letter, it can bring so much light into this world. It allows each of us to glow and to shine and to inspire others. And so I pray that we use this time, this God-given time during these difficult days, to hear, but also to heed God's call to come closer to Him. May Hashem give us all this strength, and may we see the end of this Magefa speedily in our days. And so Orit and Shaya and Nava and Noam, they all join me in wishing you and your family a Shabbat Shalom, a wonderful and a peaceful and a spiritually uplifting Shabbat.